Every 4 years, when everyone's glued to the World Cup, some unlikely stars emerge on the biggest stage. However, for every James Rodriguez, there are also those who never really do more than lighting up that one particular tournament. Welcome to Halftime Football, where today we're going to be taking a look at some one-tournament wonders from 2010, 2014 and 2018 and seeing where their careers have taken them. 2018. Denis Cheryshev. Despite their expulsion from any sort of international competitions for things that their players aren't even remotely involved in, there can be no doubt that the Russian team playing on home soil gave us some wonderful memories in 2018. The Russians reached the quarter-finals, beating Spain along the way, and the goals of Denis Cheryshev in particular caught the eyes of me and everyone else watching at home. Cheryshev came on in Russia's first game against Saudi Arabia and grabbed 2 spectacular goals before netting a third in the next game against Egypt. He would later score his penalty in the shootout win against Spain, and then scored arguably the goal of the tournament with an astonishing cold effort against Croatia, though Russia unfortunately crashed out on penalties. However, Cheryshev's stock was high and interest from all of the top 5 leagues was calling. He ended up making a loan-to-buy move to Valencia in the summer of 2018, but he was then rather underwhelming and never really reproduced that tournament magic. After 4 years at the Mestalla, he signed for Serie B side Venezia this summer, where, to be fair to him, he's playing very well at the age of 31, it's just not quite at the level you'd have expected after those 2018 performances. 2014. Ron Vlaar. No one really expected the Dutch side in 2014, who looked very old and lethargic on paper, to put on a show like they did. The tactics of Louis van Gaal most famously led them to a 5-1 win against Spain in the group stage, and it was the mature defensive displays of Ron Vlaar that really stood out. At the heart of the 3 centre-halves, Vlaar was an immaculate leader amongst inexperienced heads, showing lion-hearted bravery as the Dutch made it all the way to the semi-finals. Ultimately though, it ended tragically for Vlaar, who missed a crucial penalty in the semi-final shootout against Argentina, which ultimately led to the demise of the Dutch. Vlaar was hailed as the defender of the tournament by some, but the Aston Villa star decided to stay put in the Midlands for another year. He would then return to boyhood club RZ for the final 6 years of his career, being relatively decent in the Eredivisie for 6 years before retiring in 2021. Vlaar now works for various TV stations in his home country and is apparently pursuing a career in coaching. 2010. Keisuke Honda. Asian nations never do particularly well on the biggest stage of all, and unfortunately Japan in 2010 didn't do anything extraordinary to change that. However, despite a harrowing round of 16 exit to Paraguay on penalties, Keisuke Honda was still able to send the fans back home into absolute hysteria. Honda was naturally the man who would catch the eyes of the Japanese public due to his unique blonde haircut, much like Beckham did in 2002, except Honda actually lived up to the hype on the pitch as well. He scored the game winner against Cameroon in Japan's opening group game and put on a display that Beckham would be proud of against Denmark, as he scored a delightful free kick and generally ran the show. This led to him earning the nickname Japanese Maradona back home. However, after being knocked out in South Africa, Honda didn't really follow the same career path as Diego. To be fair to him though, he won plenty trophies with CSK in Moscow and played nearly 100 games for AC Milan. After that, he ended up playing in 4 continents across the last 5 years of his career, and he's apparently still on the market as a free agent today. In his free time, he's also the manager of the Cambodian national team, a post which he took up in 2018. The less said about that, the better, however. 2018. Andreas Granqvist. When Sweden were lumped into a group with reigning champions Germany, Mexico and South Korea in 2018, most people marked them down as the most likely to finish in the bottom 2 along with South Korea. However, from out of nowhere, an unlikely star emerged at both ends of the pitch as 33-year-old captain Andreas Granqvist stole the show. He scored 2 crucial penalties in the group stages, including the winning goal against South Korea in the opening group game, and he also proved to be an absolute rock at the back. Granqvist proved that looks can be deceiving, as despite his age and lack of pace, he proved his worth by giving everything for his nation, blocking shot after shot and showing defensive awareness echoing the very best. However, it was already known to Granqvist that after the tournament his career was winding down. He had already agreed to return to his first club Helsingborgs that summer, where he stayed until 2021 when he retired at the age of 36. He continues to work with the club at an administrative level as he's now the director of sports, whatever that entails. 2014. Joel Campbell. This emergence was arguably the most shocking of all. Costa Rica were drawn against three pillars of the World Cup in 2014: England, Uruguay, and Italy. Sorry, two pillars. No one gave them a chance, dismissing them as the token CONCACAF team behind Mexico and the USA, but wow, they shocked the world. Right winger Joel Campbell announced himself on the global stage with an incredible display against Uruguay, where he grabbed both a goal and assist as Costa Rica stunned everyone with a 3-1 win. While Campbell failed to bag another goal or assist throughout the tournament, his blistering pace and desire to get forward severely damaged back lines as Costa Rica's fairy tale went all the way to the quarterfinals. Unfortunately, they faced a resilient Dutch team who were able to knock them out on penalties, though without a doubt so many stars were born out of that team. The biggest of these was Campbell, who was told he would be part of Arsene Wenger's plans going forward after the tournament. However, he was sold a dream and made very few appearances before continuing to be loaned out again and again, just like it was before the World Cup. After a total of 6 loans from Arsenal, he was finally sold to Frosinone and later Club León in Mexico, where he's still playing today. Still, Campbell is our first player so far who could yet light up the upcoming tournament in Qatar. 2010. Asamoah Gyan. Ghana in 2010 are by far the most memorable African World Cup side in recent history, becoming everyone's second team for a few weeks as they romped to the quarterfinals, showing off both flair and fun. Of course, however, we all know how that one ended with the Luis Suarez handball incident in the last minute. Asamoah Gyan was Ghana's star of the tournament, grabbing 3 goals and an assist, but he will of course forever be remembered for missing the penalty that would have sent Ghana to the semi-finals after Suarez's handball. After that though, it only got worse for Gyan, who left Rennes that summer for Sunderland, where he was good for a season, left, and then decided to soak up money in the UAE, China, and India, before most recently playing for League One cities in Ghana last year. He's a free agent at the minute and has been eyeing a return to football, but that's not to say he hasn't been busy in the meantime. Gyan started Baby Jet Airlines, which was ready to launch into Ghanaian skies, but has been delayed due to COVID and a lack of licenses. He also most recently won a tennis doubles tournament with his brother last December. Clearly a jack of all trades. What's even more strange is that some Ghanaian media are touting Gyan to return for this year's tournament in Qatar, despite him most likely being incredibly unfit and unprepared. It would be quite the story though. 2018, Benjamin Pavard. France were almost destined to emerge victorious in 2018 with a star-studded lineup and depth like no other, as blue-tick football accounts love to remind us every 3 days leading up to the tournament. Nonetheless, in amongst the Kantés and Mbappés and Pogbas, there was a young centre-back that not many had really heard of, but by the end of the tournament he was a household name. Benjamin Pavard somehow found himself starting out of position at right-back in Russia in all but one of France's games on the way to the title, despite initially being a surprise inclusion in the French squad. Pavard was a relatively solid defender, but above all, his absolutely unbelievable long-range half-volley against Argentina, the official goal of the tournament, had his name on everyone's lips. France obviously won the tournament, and Pavard ended up securing a dream move to Bayern Munich a year later, but in all honesty he's really underwhelmed and he's more of a squad player than anything. Yes, he's won all there is to win in football, but a lot more was expected from the Frenchman after his faultless displays in Russia. He's now got more competition in that right back spot for France, but played their most recent Nations League game, but there are zero guarantees he's going to be on the team sheet in Qatar. 2014, Guillermo Ochoa. Mexico were always regarded as a dark horse in World Cup tournaments, and this year will be no different, but as always at the 2014 World Cup, they didn't really do anything with that status. They got out of the group stages and then got knocked out at the first hurdle beyond that to the Netherlands. However, one goalkeeper absolutely shocked the world with reflexes and saves that left so many jaws dropped. This was of course Guillermo Ochoa, or Memo as he's affectionately called. Ochoa particularly impressed in Mexico's second group game against Brazil, making absolutely unbelievable saves to deny Neymar, Paulinho and Thiago Silva as the Seleção watched on in disbelief. Unfortunately though, that was as good as it got, as Mexico ended up being cheated out of the competition thanks to a diving masterclass from Arjen Robben in the round of 16. Ochoa actually entered the tournament as a free agent, having just been released by Ajaccio in France, but his audition at the World Cup was more than enough to convince Malaga to sign him. He enjoyed 3 solid years there and 2 in Belgium with Liège, before returning to Club America in 2019 where it all started. He's currently the side's captain and managed to break their all-time clean sheet record earlier this year, as his legendary status in Mexico has risen to an all-time high. 2010, Robert Vittek. Now, Slovakia have never really been too impressive at tournament level. Yes, they qualify a fair bit and have a couple of decent players, but they often fail to actually do anything on the big stage. 2010 was no different for them as they crashed out to runners-up the Netherlands in the round of 16, but it was the unlikely goal-scoring displays of Robert Vittek that had everyone talking. Vittek played all 4 games and managed to notch up 4 goals, including one against the Netherlands, 2 to condemn Italy to their fate of a group stage exit, as well as one against New Zealand. However, despite his scoring antics and generally being a menace in the box, Vittek never really broke through at club level after that. He did have an underwhelming 2-year spell at Lille following a solid 5 years at Nuremberg, which actually ended just a few months before the World Cup. Despite his displays in South Africa, however, he never got out of Turkey, Hungary, or his native Slovakia in the years that followed. That being said, it's undeniable that he became a legend in his home country and particularly for Slovan Bratislava, as he made over 200 appearances across 4 separate spells for the club. This earned him the right to stay on at the club after his retirement in 2019, and he's now their Director of International Relations. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, please be sure to like and subscribe. Let me know what other World Cup content you'd love to see in the lead up to Qatar, and I'll see you next time.